Here we are at Phillip Island, Cape Willamai, but specifically the Colonnades. It's a very low tide today. The moon situation with Easter means the tide swings are very strong, but at this low point of the tide you can see what I want to show you are where the rips start, because when it's high tide it can be more difficult to see, but you can see right there where that is starting, and it's quite visible at the lowest tide. That's where it starts. When that's all covered in water, you obviously can't see that, but people can step in that area there and then that area there without knowing they're actually stepping in a channel.
Phillip Island is called the Colonnades, and like Willamai down that way, 2 kilometres down there, it's very notorious. People drown here every year, and the main reason is the rips. It's simply not great to swim here, but that said, you've got to know where to swim. Now, once again, the tide's really low. It actually shows what's happening here. This is a flat sandbar. In 3 hours, you come with water about this height, and that's actually very safe to swim on. But if you go over to there and look at where that water is now, you can actually see that's where the rip starts. And if you get caught in that, you're going to get dragged very quickly out there. And in fact, we've had some people drown every year. 2 years ago, unfortunately, a man and his son. Where the rip starts, see this for the first time. Look how deep it's getting. It's getting deep. If this is higher, I'd be getting swept down straight out 45 degree that way. And you can tell the water's getting very murky, very turbulent. And look how deep it's getting. I'm in the rip now. And it's dragging this way. Right there, it's probably too. Right there, it's probably too hard to swim now. I wouldn't even go in there. So you can tell by how turbulent the water is this very early stage where this rip starts, and already that's strong enough to drag you out. There's a sandbar the other side, and there's a sandbar there, but it's probably over 1 metre deep, and that's why this stretch of water is just so dangerous. It's like a river out there already, and we're at the lowest point of a very low king tide. One way to tell if you're in a rip when you're out is use your own feet to judge. If you are not flat, and have a look at this, 1 foot slower than the other, that's not where you want to be. You always want to walk up slowly up to high ground here. Going up. So we go back in the rip. Look at it. It's very turbulent and it's getting very deep. And if you feel you're going down what feels like a drain, the first thing you need to do very quickly, very quickly, is walk up the hill, up to high ground. Now this would all be normally underwater, so you won't exactly know where you're going, but this is where you want to get to. You want to get to here, and then when this is covered in water, you can swim in. You're not going to be able to swim. You're not going to be able to swim back in that way. If you get caught out there, and remember it's getting deep. So we're in the rip. Here, this is the rip. You can't swim out there. You have to swim this way. Get up higher, and then keep this broken waves in, and see you can get in nice and safe that way. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned a bit. Obviously the beach can be a lovely place, but take care, use your common sense. When the water's up high, you want to be on something flat like this if there's no lifeguards. This is quite safe because the waves are coming in and out. Or the alternative is you don't want to end up where waves aren't breaking and it looks safe, but that's really what's going to pull you out. And similarly, all along the beach you'll find bits where it's quite flat and quite deep bits. And another thing to look for is always where the waves are further out and the water's further out. That implies that there may be a sandbar, and the sandbar you are looking for somewhere to swim and it is unpatrolled, look for where the sand goes far into the ocean, because that's going to help determine that it's higher and potentially flatter. Don't aim for where the water goes further into the shore. That simply implies it's deeper and it's more likely to be a rip, as you can see in now. And that is the case. You can see Woolamai over there, all along this stretch of notorious coastline with multiple drownings every year. If you did have to choose a spot, that's probably a safe bet there. A lot of whitewash, it's level, turbulence is pretty low, whereas your danger spots are there, and it's a bit hard to see, but the darker blue spots out there where the waves aren't breaking as much, that's going to drag you out fairly quickly. And you can see the surfers out there using that as a highway to get out behind the waves, although at this low tide and fairly low swell, doesn't seem to be much happening there. Maybe in a couple of hours it'll pick up. Now hopefully from a high vantage point you can see where the rips occur at this very low tide, and we'll come back in about 2-3 hours and none of this will be visible, but you can see that's where the rip starts there. There's another one there, and they're pretty much dotted along the coastline, and you can see where the sandbanks are, where that boogie boarder's putting his wetsuit on. That's a fairly safe, that's a relatively safe spot if you did have to go in the water here. But as I said, in 2-3 hours this will all be covered and it'll be very difficult. So if you're someone new that arrives in 2-3 hours, you won't necessarily have the advantage of knowing, you sort of have to judge it the traditional way, looking how the wave action is.